again and welcome back to our course on OneNote 2016. In this short section I'm going to take a quick look at printing. It's quite likely that early on in your use of OneNote you may need to print something out. Printing in OneNote is pretty straightforward, but there's a couple of things I want to point out to you. Let's suppose that I just want to print this goldenrod page. With the page selected, if I go into Backstage View, one of the options there is Print. And generally speaking, if I look at Print Preview first, what you see with Print Preview is a helpful Print Preview box with a number of settings. And the default is to print the current page. Now you need to make sure that your paper size is set correctly. Mine is set at the UK default of A4, also the default in Europe. In North America, your default size may well be letter, for example. But as you adjust these settings, you'll see the preview on the left there showing you what your printed page is going to look like. My page is also currently set at landscape. I may want, for example, to set it to portrait. Notice the size of the picture in that preview. Notice the size of that picture of the flower. Watch what happens when I change to landscape. It actually gets bigger because what is happening is governed by this checkbox, scale content to paper width. Now in this particular case, the reason it's pushed over onto the right of the page here is because of the position of this particular image on the page. If I wanted to center it more, I could move it over to the left, and we'll talk about positioning on the page a little bit later on in the course. Apart from the actual content of the page, I have an option here of a footer, and if I click on the drop down for the footer options, none is an option, but I can also just have the word Flora, which is the name of the section, page with number after it, or Flora page with the number after it. And then apart from the footer, I also have a checkbox here that indicates whether I'm going to start page numbering at 1 or not. So there are a number of settings you can experiment with. When you're happy with the settings for printing that page, you click on the print button. Now before I actually show you what happens when you click on print, let me just go back up to the top here, print range, current page. There are other options here. One of the options is current section, and if I select current section, it will potentially print all of the pages in this section. Notice the little page control down here. I would get all of the pages in this section, and there are 4 of them, 3 pages and a subpage. The other option that's available to me here is page group, and in the case of the goldenrod page, because it has a subpage draft info, that will include the subpage. The page and its subpages in this case form a page group. The other option I have is if I just wanted to print a selection of pages, let's suppose that I selected Pink Campion and then I held the control key down and selected goldenrod. Then when I came into print preview, I would see an additional option which is selected pages, and I would just be able to print the pages I'd selected. So you might want to experiment with that. Let's go back then to the print button at the bottom here. You would need to select the printer. Clearly the printers available to you will not be the same as the printers available to me. I have a couple of physical printers available to me, one of them on the device I'm using, one on a different device. I have an option to print to fax, and then I also have options to do things like print to PDF, or indeed to send the print to OneNote itself. And then apart from that, I can choose which pages I'm going to print, the number of copies, so if I wanted 3 or 4 copies here, I could set that. And if I am doing a multi-page print and multiple copies, I can select with this checkbox here whether I want the print collated or not. So really the print dialog is pretty much the standard print dialog for Microsoft Office applications. There's nothing different there at all really, but it's worth getting yourself familiar with the OneNote print preview. That's it for this section. I'll see you in the next one.